We were more focused on the long-term technology trends, looking at where battery costs were going, looking at where environmental, concerns were going, whether it was CO2 intensity in the atmosphere or a bunch of other very, very long-term things, where we felt being focused on electric vehicles was going to be very relevant and extremely successful in the long term. And today, those things are even more obvious, I think, than they were before. But the lesson, I think, to learn there is, looking at technology as a very long-term trend and trying to make the right bets on where you want to do something, perhaps it's not obvious, before it's obvious, can be really helpful. And another way to think about Tesla, I think, is to look at, why did we have this chance to even get started? There's plenty of car companies in the world, big, successful companies, lots of resources. And it was actually because of a technology shift that gave us a toehold to start the company. And it was a shift around the battery technology from lead acid to lithium ion. Lead acid had been sort of the status quo. It's the battery that everybody has under the hood of their car to start their engine. They're big, they're heavy, they're kind of messy and stinky. And they really didn't make very good electric cars. So almost all of the big companies dismissed them. They said electric cars can't work. They'll never have enough range. They'll never handle or accelerate well. And they kind of just went back to business as usual and built gasoline cars for almost 100 years. But in the meantime, technology shifted, and lithium ion got invented, largely for consumer electronics, actually. It wasn't invented for cars. It was invented for computers and cell phones and things like that. And that fundamentally changed the type of product that you could build with an electric car. But not amazingly, not many people really noticed that. It kind of happened in the background. And Tesla was the first company, before it was very obvious and when it was actually quite risky, to take consumer electronics technology of lithium-ion batteries and pull it into the automotive sector. So when we were started, the challenge was actually how do we string together thousands of small lithium-ion batteries, build an electric car battery pack, and then get that into production and make it safe and affordable and everything else we would need to sell it. So that became the Tesla Roadster. And it was that taking of a brand new technology, which was not really even stable in the consumer electronics market, and trying to move it into a new market that got us started and gave us this toehold. And it also really set the foundation for the company around innovating battery technology, innovating energy technology, and that, we started there more than we did building cars. In fact, the Roadster, we didn't even build ourselves. We had to outsource that because we were a team of 50, then 100 people in Silicon Valley that didn't really have the ability to build a car. So it took years before we got to the place where we're at in this video and having our own manufacturing plant, our own stamping, and the sort of robotics you'd think of in a big car plant. Another thing we had to do early on was actually sort of create a market. This stereotype that electric vehicles are essentially golf carts is still out there a little bit today. I'm sure some of you might still think that electric vehicles are more golf cart than full function vehicle, but this was far worse in 2004. So we had to go and actually change people's understanding of what this technology was, change their impression of the entire market. And that's part of why we started with the Roadster. Because it was sleek, it was fun, it was fast and sexy, and people sort of gravitated towards it, and it really changed perceptions. If you went for a ride in that car, it convinced you fairly immediately that, wow, this is a real car. This isn't just a toy, it's not just a golf cart. And we could also compete head-to-head with gasoline sports cars in terms of torque and acceleration. So that was a really key way that we entered the market with this new technology. We didn't start at the very low end, and we didn't start trying to compete head-to-head with the mass market. Because we couldn't have been successful there. It was too expensive and it was too new. So we found, this, I think, maybe it was lucky in hindsight, maybe it was very smart, but we found the right niche to attack and build the brand.